We're racing. Try to bring the car back in one piece. Just a suggestion.
It's green. Sector 2, Carlos is 1.5 seconds behind the car ahead. The car behind is 10.2 seconds behind Carlos.
You know why Porsche Cup racing exists, Al? Because Porsche engineers looked at drivers and said, you know what this sport needs? Less excuses and more panic. Somewhere out there right now, the driver is telling his team the spin was part of the strategy. Al, you'd make the perfect race engineer. Instant calculations, no emotions, no panic. Human engineers start sweating the moment fuel numbers look suspicious. All right, 2 sectors down. Al, give me a sign. Is this lap worth finishing with pride?
Sector 2 complete. Dex, do you have a useful fact, or are we entering nonsense territory?
Fuji Speedway in Japan was originally designed with an insanely long straight because the creators dreamed of NASCAR-style racing then.
Thank you for sharing your internal noise, Dex.
That line through the corner was beautiful. Somewhere, a driving coach just shed a proud tear. Fun fact, race engineers spend years learning data analysis, only to hear drivers say, "Yeah mate, car feels weird."
You got about 2 laps of fuel left.
One more lap complete, and somehow the track limits still survive.
End of lap 1. Carlos's position is not available. Podium, P1 Tobias, P2 Iman, P3 Jason. Sector 2, Carlos is 1.6 seconds behind P8. The car behind is 2.4 seconds behind Carlos.
We're through Sector 1, and so far, no panic. Suspicious.
Sector 1 was smooth.
Some drivers treat curbs with respect. Others attack them like unresolved childhood trauma. Motorsport can be brutal sometimes.
Carlos dropped from P10 to P13. Dex, you have been unusually quiet. That usually means something dangerous is coming.
Car 1 is defending so hard right now, I think he'd block his own family at the dinner table.
I will store that under things humans say during racing.
Al, I think drivers secretly enjoy suffering. There's no other explanation for willingly racing. That move had confidence, commitment, and just enough danger to make engineers nervous. And remember, everyone, racing drivers don't grow old emotionally. They just develop more expensive hobbies. And there goes the position.
Carlos dropped from P13 to P16.
Time to park it and pretend we'll all drive better next week. Al, give us the names of glory.
Carlos finished the race in P19. The podium is P1 Tobias, P2 Matthias, and P3 Oliver. We are at Sebring International, track temperature 44 degrees Celsius, air temperature 27 degrees Celsius, no rain reported.
Drivers are on the grid, tires are warm, and egos are even warmer. It's about to get spicy.
The estimated strength of field is 1,307. Tight field today, look for opportunities. Still waiting on 2 cars to grid.
Green flag, time to shine or to spin heroically into the sunset. Either way, we'll be watching.
Race on.
There's an incident behind. Right side. Clear on the right. Car right. Clear, right side. Clear.
Sector 2. Carlos is 0.4 seconds behind P15.
There's an incident behind.
P17 is 0.2 seconds behind Carlos.
Go left. Go right. Car right.
Oh, something's
Left side.
definitely happening.
Clear on the left.
Did you see that switchback?
Car behind is gone
I'll
on.
name names. Someone's going on the overtake of the day list.
Big game.
Oh, that was chaos. Oh, that was tight, Al. Who just pulled that move and who's now rethinking life choices?
Position gained. Carlos is now P14.
There's an incident behind.
All right, 2 sectors down. Al, give me a sign. Is this lap worth finishing with pride?
Sector 2 complete.
You know what I love? That moment when the sun hits the track just right and blinds half the field. It's like nature's flashbang.
Slow car ahead. Left side.
Fuji Speedway in Japan was originally designed with an insanely long straight because the creators dreamed of NASCAR-style racing.
Stay on the right. Still there. Still up down. Yes,
Something happened there.
Clear on the
Oh,
left.
what's going
Car
on
your
here?
left.
Bold, risky, and somehow it
Clear on
worked.
the right.
Al, who was that on the inside line?
Position gained.
Clear on the right.
Carlos
Left
is now
side.
I
Clear
think
on the
somebody
left.
miscalculated
Go right.
there. That spin
You
came
got
with
a
free
slow car
tire.
on the left.
New incident X2. Total 2.
And there's the lap done.
End of lap 1. Carlos is running P14. Podium, P1 Pranav, P2 Matthias, P3 Oliver.
Well, we need to talk about that one. Did you see that switchback? Al, name names. Someone's going on the overtake of the day list.
Position gained. Carlos is now P13.
You held that position for ages. Eventually, the attacking pace was just too strong.
Position lost. Carlos is now P14. Sector 2. Carlos is 0.9 seconds behind P12. P14 is 1.1 seconds behind Carlos.
First splits in. Al's not laughing, so that's encouraging.
Sector 1 was smooth.
Many Formula One legends became famous not because they avoided danger, but because they somehow survived it. Fun fact, in WEC, some races finish with cars separated by only seconds after 6 hours of racing. Fun fact, endurance drivers sometimes memorize traffic patterns better than city bus routes. Professional racers are masters at saving tires without looking slow. It's basically wizardry with steering elements. That driver is using every centimeter of the track, and occasionally a few centimeters that don't legally belong to the track. Progress.
End of lap 2. Carlos is running P13. Podium, P1 Pranav, P2 Matthias, P3 Oliver.
Oh, what just happened? That was interesting. That's an overtake with attitude. I'll confirm who made the move and who just got schooled.
Position gained. Carlos is now P12.
That felt almost professional. Al, hit me with the split. Are we flying or faking it?
Sector 2 complete.
Car 15 is braking later every lap. At this point, it's becoming a scientific experiment.
Dex, I detect a thought forming. Should I be concerned?
You ever notice the guy who brake checks in warm-up is always the first to bin it? It's a law of the sim racing universe, like gravity, but dumber.
That was informative. Probably.
The car in P1, just at the bus.
Oh, that looked expensive. The car is now facing the correct direction emotionally.
New incident X2, total 4.
Left side, clear on the left.
Assuming survival is part of the strategy.
End of lap 3. Carlos is running P19. Podium, P1 Pranav, P2 Oliver, P3 Matthias.
The driver behind finally found a way through after laps of pressure.
Carlos dropped from P12 to P19. Sector 2, Carlos is 0.8 seconds behind P18. P20 is 3.8 seconds behind Carlos.
Alright, Sector 1 done. Time to find out if this lap has legs or just feelings.
Sector 1 was smooth.
Car on your left. Clear on the left.
Silverstone started life as a Royal Air Force base before becoming one of the most iconic circuits in motorsport. Pros don't fight the car. They convince the car to cooperate.
The car in P1, just at the start of the lap.
The Mulsanne Straight at Le Mans used to be fully flat out before chicanes were added in 1990. Apparently, 400 kilometers an hour was considered slightly excessive. Another lap completed. The race pace is good, the emotional stability less impressive.
End of lap 4. Carlos is running P19. Podium, P1 Oliver, P2 Iman, P3 Jason. Sector 2, Carlos is holding the gap to P18 at 0.8 seconds. P20 has reduced the gap to Carlos, it is now 1.5 seconds.
Sector 2 complete. If consistency was speed, we'd be champions. Al, back me up on this.
Sector 2 complete.
You know motorsport is serious when grown adults celebrate gaining 2/10 like they've just won the lottery.
Dex, I can hear the gears turning in your head. Unfortunately.
Professional drivers don't just react to slides, they expect them before they happen.
I asked a simple question. That was not a simple answer.
The Nürburgring Nordschleife is often called the Green Hell, mostly because it tries to destroy both cars and confidence. One more lap done, and the car is still pretending everything's under control.
End of lap 5. Carlos is running P19. Podium, P1 Oliver, P2 Iman, P3 Jason. Sector 2, Carlos has reduced the gap to P18. It is now 0.3 seconds. P20 has reduced the gap to Carlos. It is now 0.9 seconds.
We're through Sector 1 and so far no panic. Suspicious.
No drama in Sector 1.
Car on your left. Stay on the right. Clear.
Dex, you have been unusually quiet. That usually means something dangerous is coming.
In F1, the drag reduction system, DRS, was introduced in 2011. Some love it, some hate it, but it sure makes turn 1 spicy.
I asked a simple question. That was not a simple answer.
Oh, that escalated quickly. What a move. Al, hit me. Who's up and who's down after that corner?
Position gain. Carlos is now P18.
That was a brave move. Slightly unnecessary, but definitely brave. The fastest drivers look calm because all the panic is happening in
Slow
turn.
car on the left. The leader is running 3.291.
I think somebody miscalculated there. Did you see that switchback? Al, name. Someone's going on the overtake of the day list.
Big gain. Carlos jumped from P18 to P16.
And that's another lap completed. Somehow the car is still in one piece. Another lap down, and the tires are now officially filing complaints.
End of lap 6. Carlos is running P16. Podium, P1 Oliver, P2 Iman, P3 Jason.
1X, the car briefly identified as an off-road vehicle.
New incident X1, total 5. Sector 2, Carlos is 3.8 seconds behind P15. P17 is 0.2 seconds behind Carlos.
Alright, 2 sectors down. Al, give me a sign. Is this lap worth finishing with pride?
Sector 2 complete. Dex, I am ready for your next questionable motorsport observation.
Al, I admire your confidence. Human drivers lose self-belief after one bad corner and spend 3 laps emotionally recovering. The difference between bravery and stupidity in motorsport is usually measured in milliseconds. Fun fact, many GT3 cars are based on road cars, which means somebody looked at a normal vehicle and thought, yes, but what if it terrified people professionally?
That was informative. Probably.
There's a famous saying in endurance racing, to finish first you must actually finish. Revolutionary concept.
Right side. Keep to the left. Clear.
Sometimes you just have to accept a good overtake.
Position lost. Carlos is now P17.
Another lap complete. The car behind is still there, unfortunately.
End of lap 7. Carlos is running P17. Podium, P1 Oliver, P2 Iman, P3 Jason. Sector 2, Carlos is 0.4 seconds behind P16. P18 is 0.7 seconds behind Carlos.
That was either smooth or sleepy. I'll keep an eye on Sector 2.
Sector 1 was smooth. Dex, what are you thinking about now?
That move had confidence, precision, and just enough danger to upset an engineer.
Thank you for sharing your internal noise, Dex.
Al, if humans ever race robots professionally, the first excuse will absolutely be, yeah, but the AI had better traction out of turn 3. One missed apex in racing is exactly like sending an email to the wrong person. That driver attacked the curb so aggressively, the suspension started questioning its future. Endurance racing is basically organized chaos mixed with fuel calculations and emotional instability. You know the race is getting serious when nobody is talking in Discord anymore.
There's an incident ahead, still there. You got it, slow car on the right. Clear on the left. Car stops on the right.
Or highly controlled chaos.
End of lap 8. Carlos is running P14.
Oh, did that actually just happen? Did you see that switchback? Al, name, someone's going on the overtake of the day list.
Big gain. Carlos jumped from P17 to P14. Sector 2, Carlos is 2.7 seconds behind P13. P15 is 0.4 seconds behind Carlos.
That felt almost professional. Al, hit me with the split. Are we flying or faking it?
Sector 2 complete. Dex, you have been unusually quiet. That usually means something dangerous is coming.
The original Eau Rouge corner at Spa was even more terrifying than today's version.
Excellent. I will pretend that made complete sense.
Fun fact, some GT3 brake discs can glow above 800 degrees Celsius. That's hotter than most online argument.
Dex, I detect a thought forming. Should I be concerned?
F1 pit crews can swap 4 tires in under 2 seconds. You blink, they've already changed them and wiped the visor.
Humans continue to be a fascinating engineering problem.
That lap looked fast, dramatic, and mildly illegal in at least 2 corners.
End of lap 9. Carlos is running P14. Podium, P1 Oliver, P2 Iman, P3 Jason. Sector 2, the gap to P13 has increased. Carlos is now 3.2 seconds behind. Carlos is holding the gap to P15 at 0.4 seconds.
We're through Sector 1 and so far, no panic. Suspicious.
Sector 1 was smooth.
Yeah, where we expected to be.
The 24 hours of Daytona starts with sunrise on the banking and ends in darkness. It's not just a race, it's a time warp with traffic.
Dex, entertain the audience. My data suggests they are still awake.
Al, be honest. How many drivers here are actually running the fuel they think they're running? Statistically speaking, not enough.
That explains nothing, but it was entertaining.
Another lap finished. Calm on the outside, absolute panic inside the cockpit.
End of lap 10. Carlos is running P14. Podium, P1 Oliver, P2 Iman, P3 Jason. Sector 2, Carlos has reduced the gap to P13, it is now 2.2 seconds. P15 has reduced the gap to Carlos, it is now 0.2 seconds.
End of Sector 2 and we're still alive. Al, how's the Delta looking?
Clear.
Don't sugarcoat it.
Sector 2 complete.
Left side. Still there.
That overtake was smoother than most people's attempts at flight.
Clear on the left. Car right. Clear on the right.
1S, that excursion looked very adventurous for absolutely no reason.
New incident X1, total 6.
That was a clean move from the attacker.
Position lost. Carlos is now P15. Dex, do you have a useful fact, or are we entering nonsense territory?
I've seen smoother lines at a toddler's finger painting class. Come on folks, the apex won't bite, unless it's Monza.
I asked a simple question. That was not a simple answer.
End of the lap and not a single tracking point. Who are we? Al, check for identity theft.
End of lap 11. Carlos is running P15. Podium, P1 Oliver, P2 Iman, P3 Jason.
1X, the track limits have filed a formal complaint.
New incident X1, total 7. Sector 2, Carlos is 1.4 seconds behind P14. P16 is 0.4 seconds behind Carlos.
Made it through Sector 1 without drama? Don't get cocky.
No drama in Sector 1.
Professional drivers spend years perfecting consistency. One fast lap means nothing if the next 5 are chaos. Somewhere out there, a driver is absolutely convinced the setup is the problem. It is almost never the setup.
You got a slow car on the left. Car right. Clear on the right.
Or highly controlled chaos.
End of lap 12.
Explain that one to me. Now that was a proper dive-by bomb. Al, who's responsible and is it legal in their country?
Right side.
Position gained. Carlos is now P14.
Right side. Still there. Clear.
Oh, that looked messy. Big send into turn 1. Al, give me the names. Who's brave? Oh, something's definitely happening here. 2X, that spin was smoother than some overtakes we've seen today.
New incident X2. Total 9.
That defense was heroic, but physics eventually joined the conversation.
Carlos dropped from P13 to P16.
That was either brilliant or totally average. Al, enlighten us, we won't be offended.
Sector 2 complete.
Drivers basically aimed uphill and hoped physics agreed.
The car behind is closing on you. The gap is 3.2 seconds.
Dex, I can hear the gears turning in your head. Unfortunately.
Fun fact, the 24 Hours of Le Mans has been running since 1923, which means drivers have been sleep deprived and emotionally unstable there for over a century.
That explains nothing, but it was entertaining.
Professional drivers are unbelievably disciplined with throttle control. They feed power in smoothly. The rest of us just stomp on it.
Car in front is spinning.
And that's another lap completed, somehow with the car still in one piece. Another lap down, and the tires are now officially filing complaints.
End of lap 13.
All things are getting spicy. Sweet move through the chicane. Al, who's the hero and who's the highlight reel victim?
Position gained. Carlos is now P15. Sector 2, Carlos is 5.0 seconds behind P14. P16 is 3.3 seconds behind Carlos.
Alright, Sector 1 done. Time to find out if this lap has legs or just feelings.
Sector 1 was smooth.
Spa-Francorchamps is so large that it can literally rain on one side of the track while the other side stays dry.
No damage. Car looks clean.
Dex, do you have a useful fact, or are we entering nonsense territory?
You got it, slow car on
There
the
are
right.
drivers who memorize every bump on tracks like Sebring and
Go
Nürburgring.
there.
Honestly, that feels like a superpower.
I will store that under things humans say during racing.
Oh, that escalated quickly. Did you see that switchback? Al, name, someone's going on the overtake of the day
On the
list.
left you go.
Position gained. Carlos is now P14.
Progress.
End of lap 14.
5.4.
Carlos is running P13. Podium.
I think somebody miscalculated there. That was surgical. Al, tell me who just climbed the ranks and who's feeling spicy now.
Position
You
gained.
have about 1 lap of
Carlos
fuel
is now P13. Sector 2, Carlos is 6.7 seconds behind P12. P14 is 2.4 seconds behind Carlos.
Two sectors in and the car's still facing forward. Progress. Tell me it wasn't for nothing.
Sector 2 complete.
In F1, the drag reduction system, DRS, was introduced in 2011. Some love it, some hate it, but it sure makes turn one spicy.
Dex, you have been unusually quiet. That usually means something dangerous is coming.
That line through the corner was beautiful. Somewhere, a driving coach just shed a proud tear. Fun fact, race engineers spend years learning data analysis, only to hear drivers say, "Yeah mate, car feels weird."
That was informative. Probably.
There's an incident behind.
And that's the checkered flag. What a ride, what a mess, what a memory. Al, give us the final top three before we shut this circus
We'll get
down.
them next time.
Carlos finished the race in P13. The podium is P1 Oliver, P2 Iman, and P3 Pranav.